A dictator, a goddess, and a friend. All three of these are definitive layers of what makes Princess Bubblegum the character that she is, but that makes you wonder, who is the real Princess Bubblegum? One of my favorite characters to talk about in Adventure Time is someone you might not expect. Even though I say that Marceline and Simon are my favorite characters, one of the characters that I find the most interesting, by far, is Princess Bubblegum. The main reason I think she's so compelling is because so many people have different perspectives of her character based on how they acknowledge her as a character. Do they think of her mostly because of what she's done in the past, how other people view her, or what she's trying to do in the present? There's so many different perspectives you can take to look at Princess Bubblegum's character and her arc, so I think this is really interesting, and I wanted to talk about this concept because a lot of people, as I said in my previous video, would slander the crap out of her. I actually did get some comments talking about how they think that this is justified. So I wanted to make this video on a topic that I personally call the Bonnie problem, because I do think there genuinely is a Bonnie problem. She clearly was a horrible person and has a lot of those horrific tendencies still in the story. That is true, that is the point of her character. But as many other characters in Adventure Time do, she changes as well. And I wanted to analyze why I think a lot of these things are just interesting to me and compelling. If you've possibly seen some of my videos before or enjoy the content from this video right now, it would mean a ton if you subscribed because, hey, let's have the big number go up. If I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm gonna get a tattoo, and at this rate, it'll probably be an Adventure Time tattoo. So that'd be pretty awesome. Adventure Time is a series filled with gray-leaning characters that are morally dubious, and honestly, those are the ones who are typically the better ones. Princess Bubblegum is definitely the most gray-leaning character in the entire cast, in my opinion. She could be a ruthless dictator, a goddess figure to so many characters, or your best friend next door. That's just how effortlessly it is that she could transition from any of these roles, and that's what I think makes her incredibly compelling in a writer's standpoint, while also being actually rich and fulfilling as a character to explore as well. Because the way we find out about her storyline is very non-linear, that makes the journey of learning more about her inherently more satisfying. In my opinion, Princess Bubblegum doesn't really start as a character when it comes to the start of the story. Just like many characters in Adventure Time, obviously, she evolves many times over. This is obviously because we view the Adventure Time world through the viewpoint of Finn, and as he ages, he realizes more about the world, and especially with PB, we know Finn was absolutely obsessed with her, with all those cringy, very uncomfortable scenes of him being in love with her. But as he's matured, we've realized that he's been able to sort of compartmentalize all these different aspects of her into different sections and mostly accepts her as the friend that he cares about. And upon an introduction, a lot of these characters seem as though they'd be very surface level. However, this isn't really the case at all in her first episode. Immediately, her expectations are subverted with her being incredibly intelligent, smart, and dubious when it comes to actually giving her true motivations to her subjects. And I think that sort of grayness from the base is what allowed her to become even more compelling as the show developed her character further and further. Now that the show has been finished for quite a long period of time, a lot of people have come to either one of these two conclusions. Firstly, that Bonnie is sort of meant to represent the idea of isolation, overly devoting yourself to a specific thing versus actually communicating with other people. Or secondly, the more literal approach that the show is taking, that she is actually like a dictator-esque figure who is focused on power and control instead of actually doing things other people's way. But before we get into that, I wanted to do a rapid fire thing of all the reasons people hate PB and think she's trash and terrible and a bad person. So let's start with that real quick. Firstly, did Princess Bubblegum lead Finn on? No, he just interpreted that the whole time. He was literally 12. Oh, then why did she lead him on when she was 12? Oh my god, it's almost like she was 12. Crazy. Secondly, did Princess Bubblegum actually hate Marceline back in the past? No, she was very self-centered and did care about Marceline's feelings. Yes, but guess what? That was also a flashback hundreds of years in the past. They're actually pretty close now. That's the whole point of them coming back together in the finale. Thirdly, is Princess Bubblegum very self-centered and not caring about other people's emotions? Yes, that's the whole point of her character, and that's why she tries to improve as the series continues, even going to the extent of disabling her spy cameras and actually enabling enabling these people to have lives of their own. There's a huge reason why Cinnamon Bun moving with Flame Princess and becoming his own person is a very focused thing in the show. It not only gives us a vehicle to see Flame Princess, who is a character who also overtly judges Princess Bubblegum for being a bad person, it also gives us the experience of seeing a candy person turn from someone that is very much a sort of pawn in Bubblegum's world to becoming someone with actual urgency and developing a life of their own outside of Princess Bubblegum. Speaking of Flame Princess, obviously Princess Bubblegum has done a lot of messed up stuff to this girl, making sure that she was captured and kept out of harm's way in order to ensure that the world is not destroyed by one emotional mood swing. That's understandable, but it's also pretty messed up and a strong use of her power. She could have just talked it out with the Flame King, or at least found some way to make sure that she's able to have a normal emotional life, because clearly her locking up Flame Princess added a lot of emotional turmoil. Fourthly, yes, she abandoned Lemongrab, but guess what? She did the exact same thing that she tried to do, which was to make a similar person to her for him. Now, did that pan out the right way? No, it didn't, and she probably should have thought this would have happened because this happened with her and Uncle Gumball. Lemongrab did eventually become a better person as the series ran its course, but of course that wouldn't have happened without Bubblegum actually changing and deciding, you know what, I should probably take care of this person that I have created. Fifthly, yes, she is incredibly bigoted towards magic and magic users because she is rational. That is the whole point of her character. She's focused on rationality and making sense of everything. She gets an incredible moment at the end of the episode where she finally realizes it's a cold spell that uses ice magic, and she is blown away by the possibilities of what magic could be, and she genuinely is taken aback. And obviously at the end of that episode, yes, she gives Starchy medicine because that's what she believes will get him in the right, because guess what? They couldn't get the cold spell that they were looking for. What was he supposed to do? Just wait for a cold spell now that they're banned from Wizard City? Because that's not going to happen. Finally, she does start a war at the end of the day. Yes, that is true. The wars caused by her creating Gumball and turning him into a candy person, but guess what? At the end of the day, all these people side with Bubblegum because they trust her. She actually has connections with these people that she's formed. This is a stark contrast to the Bubblegum we see in any of those flashbacks, where she is seemingly seen as a dictator that is solely on her own, completely unattached to anyone else. When we see her go into war at this section of the story, she is fueled by the friendships that she's forged along the entire show. It's almost like that is the point of the show, that people can grow together and change. It's very difficult to actually figure out which of these is the actual intent of the writers a lot of the time. There's very often times where the first option is seemingly what they try to do, where they try to make it so that the Candy Kingdom is sort of her passion project, her job. And it makes some sense. A lot of the stuff that has been created in the Candy Kingdom was created by Bonnie. In essence, think of it as though she's playing The Sims, except The Sims are real human beings that she has made with actual sentience and actual lives that can change and be affected. The second one obviously makes her seem a lot more maniacal, and it goes into her being a scientist and all these things being experiments for her leading up to something more and more and more. But if that's the case, what is this all leading to at the end of the day? Bonnie integrally has that sort of essence of her character that she needs to be watching over someone. She needs to be in control of something. That's literally all she's known her entire life. The second she was born, she was brought into this world with a brother, and that brother needed to be taken care of. Then in that same exact episode, she mentions that she craves that companionship that she had when she was young. So I can easily see why she has gone to such lengths to ensure that she doesn't have that sense of loneliness. And we see that for hundreds of years, she only has Nettie in her life. And Nettie isn't going to give her the type of communication that she needs. And that's why she tries to create Gumball. But that obviously goes super left because he tries to take over what she has. And this is where it gets to shaky territory. She created Gumball, but she just as easily can get rid of Gumball, which was going to be the plan that he used on her regardless. That is the Bonnie problem plan that he created. So it's difficult to say whether or not Bonnie actually deserves to be in this situation. She definitely created Gumball, but at the same time, she essentially lobotomized the dude in order to make sure he couldn't live out to his full potential, what he was made to be. I think two very interesting examples of characters who have specific viewpoints on Princess Bubblegum are Banana Guard 16 and Rattleballs. Now, both these characters obviously view Bubblegum in a very high regard, but also fear her immensely for what they think she might do to them, which paints her as not only a figure that is greater than everyone, but also one that can just as easily erase them as easily as she can make another version of them. Now, the whole Rattleball situation, I'm gonna be honest, this episode, this is like the holy shit episode. Like, I can't believe they actually made this episode, because it shows, in my opinion, the worst of PB. I know they're not actually alive and they're robots, but like, come on, bro. A lot of the imagery in this actual episode is just insane. It had a large impact on what the fanbase thinks of her as a character, even though she willingly let Rattleballs live after realizing the changes that not only he has gone through, but she has gone through as well. It still bodes very badly for what she used to be. And I think that's really interesting, because in the episode with Banana Guard 16, we actually get callbacks to Rattleballs, and Finn has that same fear as well, that PB is going to do the same exact thing that she did to all the Rattleballs type robots to Banana Guard 16. In this scenario, PB actually lets Banana Guard 16 continue to be his own individual, which is really interesting because Rattleballs was his own individual. Overall, says individuality is a good thing, but is it only good if it doesn't go directly against her? I love how hypocritical she can be sometimes. It makes her feel a lot more compelling and alive as a character. My main issue with Princess Bubblegum isn't even her herself, it's sort of the way that they have portrayed this sort of duality with her character, with the idea of, oh, it's either a job and a passion project that she's just really invested in, versus her being a dictator of people that have sentient lives. To her, they aren't really fully sentient people because she has made these people. That was the whole intent of her doing this stuff. Like I said, The Sims. She's basically playing The Sims, but in real life. But you can't really have both of these together, because a lot of these people do have lives and things that happen outside of being just like little projects that you have to work on. So that sort of sense of being a god and a scientist and a dictator, there's just so many like weird different sort of perspectives you can think about. It is amazing how far they were able to take this character and somewhere I personally never could have ever expected, and that's what makes it so compelling. She doesn't really seem to resolve it 100%, but she's trying. And that, I think, is the most important part of PB's character. She tries. Princess Bubblegum being seen as a terrible person is just another one of those pointless Twitter, social media dialogues that is constantly regurgitated over and over and over again, when in reality, a lot of these people who even comment on this have not finished the series, or have not even watched the series in some examples, and just, again, regurgitate that same exact outcome that they've heard so many times. One of the more heinous examples that has come as of late is that people are constantly comparing Princess Bubblegum to Makima from Chainsaw Man because of her similar dynamic with the main character Denji, the fact Denji is on record inspired by Finn, so a lot of people have constantly been pushing that sort of angle for her character and depicting her as a literal villain in the series, when Princess Bubblegum clearly is not the villain in Adventure Time. But at the end of the day, what do I think the Bonnie problem actually is? Well, I think the Bonnie problem is exactly what I've been discussing this whole video. The fact that there are people who are constantly still having this sort of conflicting opinion on this character, and I honestly think this isn't a problem. It's actually really great, because some people can find her incredibly terrible, and some can find her really, really great and compelling, and the fact that there's this constant dialogue surrounding this character goes to show how much effort was put into making her compelling, and people will constantly try to say she's just terrible, but you know there's going to be people who are going to defend her just because they find that sort of weird interest in her. I actually had a lot of fun recording this video. Like, even while I was recording it, had to take like pretty long breaks to like think about everything I was scripting and writing, because it felt as though the gray area-ness of Princess Bubblegum was still like something I really had to think about. And it still is, honestly. You know, it's really cool having to like hyper-analyze a character, you know what I mean? Princess Bubblegum, cool and not bad, that's the side I'm on, but I don't know, it was really fun to like sort of hyper-analyze all the stuff she's done, talk about why this is good, why this is bad, why this is compelling as a whole. It was really fun, so I really enjoyed making this video. Thank you to all the people who support these videos, it really means a ton. Hope you enjoyed, take care, and have a good one.